Welcome to the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel. Today I'm joined by the big man Bakar for a special Game Week 14 preview. Bakar, I say special because we have so much to get through, and a lot of the times with these episodes, I do think that the decisions that you make and the viewers are going to make are relatively straightforward. This week is not like that. This is a week that we really need your expert advice. First of all, you're on the back of 6 green arrows. Silencing the haters, you could say. Secondly, I want to know who your captain is going to be this week. That's the big question. It's in the title. It's in the thumbnail. That's what the people want to know. But first of all, mate, how are you doing? How have the past few game weeks been?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jack. Hello and welcome to all the listeners and viewers. Yeah, last few weeks have been very pleasant, FPL-wise. A lot of the things have been going my way. A lot of decisions that I've taken have paid off. Very recently, I got Salah in. He's been a great transfer, and I'm sitting here now with 2 free transfers in my team, in a team which is looking very good on paper. So fingers crossed for another green this week.
Yeah, team's looking super solid. We've spoken. I spoke yesterday with Abdul about the template front 7. You've got that, really. I mean, there are obviously other options, but again, having those 7 players in place already, and then you look at the defense. Gabriel and Saliba doubled up already, looks super strong with the fixtures coming up. Cash may be a bit of an issue, but yeah, as you say, with 2 free transfers, it's looking pretty good. But let's get to the main topic of this week, in my opinion, captaincy. Where are you thinking? What are your thoughts right now?
My thoughts are that you've got to be lucky to get it right. I mean, a very similar thing happened this week with Son and Haaland. I luckily went with Haaland, but at the end of the day, the numbers and the underlying data between them was very similar. Very, very similar, in fact. All those who went Son could think that they were hard done by the fact that he didn't get any returns. And I think that will be the case next week as well. Hopefully, we don't get as much variance between both of them and they perform well. It's going to be a 50-50 call. I think Haaland against that high line, it's something he probably wouldn't have seen from his Dortmund days playing against Emerson Royal as a centre-back with Ben Davies. It's a recipe for disaster for Spurs. So I can see Haaland having fun, and it's tricky because generally I don't really go against Haaland, especially when he's playing at home, even if it's against one of the big 6. But it's tricky because even though I do think Haaland will do well, I also think Salah will do well, and Salah has the fixture basically on paper. I was looking at the odds for at least 1 goal involvement, and both of them are level on 63%. Just goes to show that even the bookmakers can't split them. So this is just going to be a week where you have to get lucky to get it right.
Interesting. Perhaps what will be the deciding factor is the fact that Salah's a midfielder, could get the clean sheet point, and also obviously an extra point for a goal. But yeah, it's going to be close. Looking at the predicted points here on Fantasy Football Hub on the My Team tool, Haaland is predicted to get slightly more than Salah. That's with all the data and everything, the underlying data factored in. Whether or not you guys watching at home want to utilize that or not, it's up to you. But there you see it. Haaland 8.5, Salah 7.4. Before we get into some more kind of normal questions and the debates of this week, I do just want to say that there is currently a 30% off deal on the website. Everything you're about to see in this video, all the stats, all the predicted points, the AI suggested transfers, 30% off if you sign up right now. Black Friday deal, and you get a 30-day free trial there as well. Link down below. Bakar, let's begin. Budget midfielders. I think this is a very contentious one. Eze got injured. Very unlucky for owners that brought him in. Diaby getting subbed at half-time. When you have the likes of Gordon doing so well, Palmer still in a lot of teams, etc., a lot of people wanting to bring in Mbeumo this week, who's already in your team. What do you think we should do with players like Eze and Diaby?
I think the easy move is the one to Mbeumo, and he's getting a lot of traffic because the likes of, we mentioned Eze, Mitoma, we don't know whether Bowen's going to be fit. Similarly, Diaby, his minutes are at risk. So Mbeumo is getting a lot of traffic, and rightly so. I think he's an excellent option. And when you look at this period, you want 90-minute men, and Mbeumo is exactly one of them on penalties. I mean, the guy is just behind Haaland and Salah for XGI this season at 7 million. It's crazy. When you look at non-pen XGI, he's second only behind Haaland. I mean, these numbers are as good as someone with the premium price tag, and he's just 7 million. So in my opinion, despite the upcoming blank in Game Week 18, he's definitely worth it. With the fixtures to come, I think Luton away from home this week are terrible. Generally, they concede over 2.5 XG on their travels, and Brentford are playing them at home this week. So that's a great fixture. Then Brighton next week. Brighton haven't kept a clean sheet all season. Mbeumo is likely to be playing as a forward in that fixture. Then Sheffield United away. I mean, it's as good as it gets. So just keep it simple and buy Mbeumo, in my opinion.
Fair enough. And if money's not, the best for you, if you're looking for something a little bit cheaper, for example, for me
Yeah.
personally, I can't go straight from Diaby to Mbermo. I do think it's worth mentioning though that if you can, Mbermo is just such a good pick. You might think he's overperforming this season, but as Bakar's just said, we can see here on screen, 6 goals, but 7.3 xGs. He's underperforming his stats somehow. It's unbelievable for a player that was priced at 6.5 million. But if you can't get to him for whatever reason, Gordon and Palmer are the sort of budget midfielders that are doing well right now, or have been for the past few weeks. Who would you go for out of those two players?
Yeah, this is a much closer call. Let's say if you already have Mbeumo or you don't have the funds, etc., and it's a tricky call. And I think I would side to Palmer, but it's a very close call because Gordon's numbers are as good. I mean, when you look at Palmer's XGI since he's non-pen XGI since he started playing in Game Week 7, the non-pen XGI per 90 is 0.47. Gordon's is similar as well, but it's just that Gordon has more goal threat from open play. So Gordon's non-pen XG is better. So in my opinion, I prefer Palmer because of the fact that even though he has less open play threat than Gordon from open play, he's on penalties and that swings it in his favor. And he's also 0.6 million cheaper. I also think Hwang is worth a discussion here. But the thing with Hwang is that the entry point is not the best this week with Arsenal away. And despite the fact that he has Burnley at home and Forest at home in the next 2 weeks, when you look at Palmer's fixtures over the long run, they're just much better. So these are the fixtures. I'll read them out for Chelsea: Brighton at home, United away, Everton away, Sheffield United at home, Wolves away, Crystal Palace at home, Luton away, Fulham at home. This is the fixture until game week 21. So I just think at 5.3 million, Palmer is a bit of a set and forget. And in this kind of form, I just don't see him dropping out, even if Nkunku comes back. And if he is the likely penalty taker, he will do well. Even without penalties, when you look at the mids, he's 7th for non-pen XGI since his first start in Game Week 7. So it's just a close call, but penalties make him stand out, in my opinion.
Yeah, you can see on screen as well, guys, that he's really just dominating both Hwang and Gordon in terms of the underlying numbers, and this is not even including penalties. And yeah, I completely agree with you. As a Chelsea fan, he's been our best player this season. I see no way in which he'll get dropped. I mean, in the short term, definitely. In the long term, probably. Even if Nkunku does come back pretty quickly, I think there are 5 players that would probably drop out the team before him. He's been that good, and yeah, he just looks phenomenal. And also, I think it's worth mentioning as well that he is 0.6 cheaper than Gordon. So
Yes.
down the line, when money may become an issue, yeah, I think it's one to keep in mind. Let's talk about a goalkeeper now that has kind of come to the fore out of nowhere in Kelleher, the Liverpool backup, just because of the injury to Alisson, which we don't have too much information on right now. But for people that may have been out the loop here, can you just explain what's going on there?
So basically, in the game against Man City, it was reported that Alisson felt something in his hamstring, and unconfirmed rumors are that he's out for 5 weeks, which would suggest that if he's out for 5 weeks, then that's almost 6 to 7 game weeks. And in that run, Liverpool have Fulham, Crystal Palace, Sheffield United, Burnley in 4 of those 6 to 7 game weeks. So Kelleher is a shout and a half if you have 2 free transfers and nothing else to do, especially if you're on wildcard in game week 19 or wildcard 16, like a lot of managers are. Personally, with my team, I don't have a wildcard intact, but I still am considering the transfer because Liverpool's defense is much better than West Ham's. Liverpool are ranked 5th for non-pen XG conceded this season. West Ham are 16th. So I think Kelleher is definitely an upgrade over Areola. Even this week alone, despite the fact that Areola is playing Eze as Crystal Palace, Kelleher has the better odds of keeping a clean sheet. So I think it's an upgrade, and you can say 0.1 on Turner if you own him, or move from Strakosha, and you can end up keeping Areola. The more of a consideration for me is, do you think that the short-term gains that we will make over the 6-7 weeks if we buy Kelleher are enough to potentially justify a transfer out later, let's say in game week 24 or game week 25, when Liverpool are likely to double and they're likely to have Luton at home as part of that double? That will happen if Liverpool reach the AFL Cup final, which, I mean, on the basis of my best guess, I assume they will, because the teams that are left in the AFL Cup aren't exactly the most strongest of opponents they're going to face. And if Liverpool do reach that final, then Kelleher could be a transfer out by game week 24 or 25 if you want that Liverpool triple up. And a counter argument to that could be that, you could just jump on, a Everton keeper or a Fulham keeper if they double in 24-25 as well. So it's a tricky one, because if it wasn't to be a transfer out later, then it's very straightforward, as is the case for, game week 16 or 19 wildcarders. But without a wildcard, it's tricky. I mean, I am considering the move because I have nothing much to do with my team this week, but I sort of understand the risks, and I'm not exactly sure whether I will go ahead with it.
It's one of those, isn't it, though? We've been speaking for a long time about the goalkeeper spot and how fruitless it's been, and how we can't wait to get Areola out of our teams. And then you're saying that, it's going to be, 6-7 game weeks that Kelleher would play 8 game weeks if Alisson is injured 4-5 weeks. Is it not too good to turn down? I don't know, especially given that you can keep Areola as well. Just get Kelleher in for Turner. But yeah, an interesting one, and that's the beauty of FPL. Sometimes you just get an injury like that will just shake up the entire game, especially given that you have 2 free transfers. Let's talk about pretty much the only player in your team that looks subpar right now, who is Cash. What are your thoughts on him?
My thoughts on him are that he's expendable. I don't think he's a hard sell, because, I mean, the good thing about him is the fact that he has Sheffield United in game week 18, but the cons outweigh the pros of keeping him. And now the fact that he's on 4 yellows, I don't think he's going to likely play right wing again. I think he's likely going to be the right back, and as a right back, he doesn't really carry the same threat, and his minutes are at risk. I mean, he's not really getting those 90 minutes every week that he was early in the season. So I think he's a sell personally. I don't see Villa keeping a clean sheet away to Bournemouth this week. And when you look at and compare some of the odds, for example, a lot of people have a Newcastle defender. Aston Villa are ranked by the bookmakers. They're given a 27% probability to keep a clean sheet this week. With Newcastle, it's 36%, and for someone like Burnley or Charlie Taylor, it's 40%. So I think he's even surplus requirements this week. I don't really view the fixture against Bournemouth as one of the easiest.
Yeah, and we know that Villa do struggle defensively, at least away from home. So Bournemouth are scoring a few goals recently. I would not be surprised I'd be surprised if they don't score in that game, to be honest. So you're kind of relying on a Cash attacking return. I mean, you're not even sure he's going to start, really, based on his performance last game week. And the yellows, of course, are a concerning factor there as well. All right, let's talk about Son and Saka. Saka just had a price rise last night. People are bringing him in, but I think there's underlying data issues there with Saka. But Son is the one that a lot of people are saying he's not kind of providing the value at 9.6 million, 9.7 million. Do you think that we should be selling Son?
I haven't really given this much of a thought personally, because I view Son as one of the best assets in the game, with the highest ceiling after, let's say, Haaland and Salah in any game, irrespective of fixture, just given how attacking Postecoglou has been. And in Maddison's absence, I think he's almost certainly going to be on penalties. He's playing up front. He has a good run of fixtures coming up after this week. Even this week, I do fancy him to score against City. So I haven't really given it much of a consideration. I just think he's a set and forget player for the weeks to come. He won't get rotated. Spurs don't have any options. So, I mean, What's not to like? It's just the fact that he's blanked in 3 successive games that people are selling him. But as mentioned earlier in the video, he had an XG of 0.74, which was similar to Haaland. If he would have scored this week, or if he'd assisted, I don't think people would be even entertaining this idea. But as is the case, people go on output, and that's why it's been considered. In fact, he's dropped in price this week, which is good for us owners, because the less the ownership, the better.
And then Saka,
his underlying data isn't great. I mean, it's in recent times it hasn't been as good, but I have no problems keeping him because the fixtures are still good, and the guy's on penalties. I mean, likely on penalties because he has a habit of donating them in the past. But he's on set pieces as well. And he's probably the most nailed attacker in the Arsenal team. So before Wolves and Luton, I think he's a buy. Actually, I don't think he's a sell.
Okay. Just got his stats on screen. And last 5 game weeks, he has an XG of 0.2. Just 0.2. Is that not a little bit concerning? I know he has great fixtures, but do you think his role might have slightly changed into becoming more of a creator? His XA is okay. He's created a decent number of big chances. But yeah, that XG of just 0.2. I know he is on penalties, as you just said, but it's low, isn't it?
I mean, it is low, and Arsenal's attack hasn't really clicked this season. They're 11th for non-pen XG this season. It's very underwhelming. They just seem to be playing with more control, but he's just, I just view Saka as a steady Eddie kind of pick who's just going to tick along. I don't think he will haul big in most of the fixtures, but he's good for bonus, and in any week where he scores, he's going to get that 10-pointer. So as long as he trickles along in the other weeks, I'm perfectly fine keeping him.
Okay, fair enough. Let's now end this episode with a little bit of a chat about the free hit chip in game week 18, because so far you've not really mentioned it, but you have spoken a lot about 18 and how we need to factor that week in. For people that don't know, just explain first of all what's going on in that week, why we need to be cautious of that, and secondly, any merit behind using the free hit chip in that week.
Yes, so for those of our listeners who don't know, game week 18 is going to be a blank game week for Man City and Brentford. They're likely to have a double scheduled at some point later, which is likely to be game week 20 or 21, from what we hear. Now, the thing is that game week 18 is also a week where Arsenal and Liverpool are playing each other. When you look at the fixtures in game week 18, Aston Villa are playing at home to Sheffield United. A lot of us won't have any Aston Villa players by then, with the exception of Watkins, as I assume a lot of people are selling cash. Newcastle versus Luton, again a fixture which is good on paper, but a lot of us have sold Trippier, don't have Isak, don't have Gordon, so you're unlikely to be, let's say, double or triple up on Newcastle at this point. Similarly, Spurs have Everton, so the likes of, let's say, Porro or Brennan Johnson, these could be good options for that week when you look at the fixtures for upside. And a lot of us are actually investing in Arsenal, are actually investing in Liverpool, and they're playing against each other in a fixture which is likely to carry low upside, and will be carrying Mbomo and Haaland on the bench. So I do think there is some merit to considering it. I haven't ruled it out. But at this point in time, I don't really want to commit to it, because I realize that there will be a big blank in game week 29, which will happen because of the FA Cup quarterfinals. And that is a week where I assume that the free hit chip could be put to better use because of the sheer number of teams that will be blanking. Having said that, I do think there are gains to be had in the game week 18 chip for the reasons mentioned earlier. And I just want people to be mindful of this fact, because benches will come in handy in game week 18 when the likes of Haaland and Poma are going to miss out.
Yeah. It's one of those where there are going to be more blanks down the line, so it's probably not the best time to use it. But we've seen this before. Like, the upside is clearly there, not just because of the players that don't have fixtures, but the difference in fixtures between players that you're going to have and players that you might want to have is crazy. But Bakar, that is going to do it for this one. Thank you very much for your tips and advice. Before we do end it though fully, right now, if the deadline was in 12 seconds, who would be your captain?
It would probably be Salah, but I think I'm likely to shift. Let's say even tonight. I mean, that's how close I am.
What would make you shift though? What would make you? What are the conversations? What are the deliberations you're having with yourself that would make you switch?
I mean, as mentioned earlier, I'll look at the injury news, press conferences to just get a vibe of how things are going to be. It's going to be close, because I could easily say Haaland as well. Right, I do generally like both of the options, but what I'm more torn about on this week are my transfer choices.
Yeah,
and that's something I would actually like to touch upon.
Of course, yeah.
A bit more in the video. I've sort of mentioned Turner to Kelleher, but this is a week where I don't really have an obvious transfer to make, so I'm looking at potentially selling cash. Now, the replacement I have earmarked is probably Livramento. If I get Livramento this week, then I have enough money in the bank to, let's say, do Gehi to Porro and Saliba to James over the next 2 weeks. And I have earmarked Porro and James as being the key defenders to have with the highest degree of upside in the weeks to come. So getting Livramento would help me afford that. But at the same time, even though I do think Livramento is first choice, I think, looking at Newcastle's schedule, that he will likely miss either one of game week 17 or 18, especially looking at the EFL Cup fixture that they have against Chelsea. I think Lewis Hall could play there. Sorry, Lewis Hall would be eligible, so Livramento could play there, which would basically mean that Livramento could be at risk in either 17 or 18. So yeah, it's not something which is ideal, and this is something which I'm debating in my head. I may go for someone like a Pinnock, but that won't leave me enough for Porro or James in the coming week. So I don't think I'll do that. It's going to be a tough call either way, because I mean, there are cons of owning Livramento. There are cons of doing Pinnock. There are cons of doing Kelleher even. So I'm going to have a very hard time deciding between my transfer this week.
Do you think it will be just one transfer rolling the second?
Yeah, for sure. I won't be using 2 free transfers unless something drastic happens in the Champions League. Someone gets injured. I don't think I'll be using 2 free transfers.
Okay, I think that is going to do it. Apologies, I did forget about your transfers then, which is one of the main points of these videos. But we've got it covered. Thank you, Bakar, for saving me. Once again, guys, link down below. It's the best deal that we've had since the start of the season. It's the best deal we'll have for the majority, well, the rest of the season. So make sure to sign up. 30% off. It's not going to get any better than that if you want to have a look with your own team at any of the stuff that you've seen in this video. Bakar, thank you very much as always. Good luck this game week, and good luck to all of you as well. We will see you on the next one.